Tonight, we are going to follow one of the quietest threads in human life, the long history of getting clean. We will move through warm water, ash and oil, handmade soap, Roman baths, hammams, medieval bathhouses, public washrooms, city sewers, and the small private rituals that help a person leave the day behind. You can listen closely, or you can let the details pass by like steam above warm water. Settle your shoulders, let the room become dim, pull the blanket a little closer, and we will begin with the simple question of how people washed, soothed, scrubbed, scented, and understood the body across time. Before cleanliness was a plumbing fixture, before it was a bright tile room or a bottle with a label, it was a feeling. It was the feeling of water drawn from a basin, the feeling of a cloth wrung out by hand, the soft sting of heat on cold fingers, the little cloud of steam that rises when warm water meets cooler air. To get clean is not only to remove dirt, it is also to change the border between the body and the world. A person comes in from a dusty road, or a smoky kitchen, or a day of labor, and water makes a small crossing. What was outside is loosened. What clung to skin is lifted away. The day is not erased, but it is made lighter. That is why the history of bathing is never only a history of hygiene. It is also a history of comfort, status, religion, medicine, labor, technology, and ordinary domestic care. In some places, bathing was public and social. In others, it became private and quiet. Sometimes it meant steam rooms and tiled pools. Sometimes it meant a wooden tub, a kettle, and a careful use of fuel. Sometimes it meant no bath at all, but the washing of hands, face, linen, hair, tools, or clothes. The philosopher and anthropologist Mary Douglas would later write about purity and pollution as systems of order, not simply as biology. Her important book, Purity and Danger, was first published in 1966, and its central lesson for us tonight is gentle but useful. Dirt is often about where something seems to belong, and where it does not. A footprint on a garden path is ordinary. The same footprint on a white pillow is dirt. Ash in a hearth is useful. Ash in a drinking cup is not. Soap itself begins with strange materials. Fats, oils, ash, and alkali, things that may not seem clean at all until chemistry changes them into something that can carry grease away. So before we step into the warm rooms of Rome, or the dome steam of the hammam, we should begin with the bar of soap in the hand. Small, quiet, familiar, and surprisingly ancient. Modern people often imagine soap as a bathroom object, but historically, soap and soap-like cleansers were not always made first for the body. They belonged also to cloth, wool, tools, workshops, and the patient labor of removing grease from things that needed to be used again. The American Chemical Society chapter, An Ancient Cleanser, Soap Production and Use in Antiquity, explains that the earliest evidence of soap production dates to the 3rd millennium BCE, from Mesopotamian clay tablets. It also makes an important point about evidence. Unlike glass, ceramics, or metal tools, soap does not usually survive in the archaeological record as a durable object. To understand its early history, scholars must rely heavily on written records. That is a beautiful thought for a sleepy history. A substance made to dissolve and disappear is known to us because someone pressed signs into clay. The soap is gone, the tablet remains. A later accessible American Chemical Society discussion describes an early Mesopotamian written record from about 2200 BCE in which oil and potash were used to degrease and clean cloth. This is not yet the neat modern bathroom bar. It is closer to a practical industrial cleaner, a way of treating textiles and it should be understood as a specific written account, rather than a full recipe for modern soap. The basic idea, though, is stable. Soap comes from a meeting between fatty material and alkaline material. The fatty material might be animal fat, olive oil, sesame oil, or another plant oil. The alkaline material might come from ash, potash, soda-rich plants, or later refined lye. Put in the simplest terms, soap is born when oil and alkali are persuaded to become something neither one was by itself. That is part of the magic of the history, although it is chemistry rather than magic. Grease alone does not wash away easily with water. Water and oil resist each other, but soap has a double nature. One end of its molecule is drawn toward water, and the other is drawn toward oil and grease. This lets soap help lift oily dirt from a surface and carry it into water, where it can be rinsed away. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration gives the modern plain definition. Ordinary soap is made by combining fats or oils with an alkali, such as lye. The fats and oils break down into fatty acids, which combine with the alkali to form crude soap. When soap is made properly, no lye remains in the finished product. That last sentence matters. Lye is dangerous before the reaction is complete. Finished soap is different from raw soap batter. A quiet bar on the side of a sink is the end of a chemical change, not the same thing as the caustic material that helped create it. In the past, people often made soap from animal fats and lye extracted from wood ashes. The FDA notes this as part of the old domestic picture. A household that slaughtered animals, saved fat, burned wood, washed cloth, and heated water could connect all those activities in one slow chain. Nothing was quite separate. Fire made ash, ash made alkali, fat became useful. Water, heat, stirring, and time turned waste into a cleanser. There is a kind of humility in that. The history of getting clean begins with materials that do not seem clean. It begins with smoke, grease, ash, and work. Let us slow down with the soap itself. Imagine a simple table. On it are three plain things: oil, water, and alkali. In a modern cold-processed soap, the alkali is often sodium hydroxide, commonly called lye. In older methods, the alkali might come from leached wood ash or from plants rich in alkaline salts. In either case, the soap maker is trying to bring fats and alkali together in the right balance. The process is called saponification. That word can sound sharp and technical, but the idea is soft enough to hold for a moment before sleep. The fat is changed. The alkali is consumed in the reaction. The mixture thickens. Given time, it becomes soap. Different alkalis and fats help make different kinds of soap. Sodium hydroxide generally makes a harder bar soap. Potassium hydroxide often makes a softer or liquid soap. Olive oil can make a milder, slower curing soap. Coconut oil can make a firm bar with strong lather, though too much can be harsh. Tallow or rendered animal fat was historically common because it was available where animals were butchered and household economies wasted little. We should be careful here. A sleep documentary can explain how soap is made, and it can explain why people made it. But it should not make lye seem harmless. Poison Control warns that lye, also called sodium hydroxide, is caustic. Contact with skin, eyes, or other tissue can cause significant injury, including chemical burns and eye damage. Lye should only be handled with proper protective equipment, ventilation, and serious attention. Children should not handle it. Oregon State University Extension gives the same kind of caution in plain terms. Soap making involves lye. Lye can be hazardous if mishandled. and people should rely on vetted resources rather than random recipes. So when we speak about making soap tonight, we will keep two things separate. Historically, lye and ash soap are central to the story. Practically, we are not offering a recipe or asking anyone to handle caustic materials. Poison control and Oregon State University Extension both make the safety concern clear. Lye soap making belongs with protective equipment, ventilation, exact measurement, and a dedicated practical guide, not with a drifting bedtime narration. In an old household soap process, the work could begin with saving fat. Fat might be rendered slowly, warmed until usable material separated from scraps. Wood ash might be leached with water to make an alkaline liquid. The soap maker would combine fat and alkali, heat or stir the mixture, and wait for it to thicken. The details varied by region, fuel, materials, and inherited practice. In modern cold process soap making, safety and precision matter. Soap makers weigh oils and alkali carefully, use tested formulas or lye calculators, and allow time for the reaction and curing. We can understand that process historically without turning it into instructions. For our quiet episode, the contrast is the point. An older world of saved fat, plant ash, heavy pots, and laundry soap, beside a modern world of regulated bars, liquid cleansers, synthetic detergents, scent, packaging, and a pump by the sink. Once the basic chemistry is understood, the world of soap opens into many forms. There are hard soaps and soft soaps. There are soaps made mostly for laundry and soaps made for the body. There are plain utility soaps that smell only faintly of fat and ash, and perfumed toilet soaps wrapped like small luxuries. There are soaps made with olive oil, soaps made with tallow, soaps made with coconut oil, soaps made with mixed fats, and soaps made with plant ashes or mineral alkalis. A hard bar soap usually depends on sodium salts or fatty acids. A softer or liquid soap often depends on potassium salts. We do not need to hold all the chemical terms tightly. It is enough to know that the chosen alkali changes the texture of the finished cleanser. The Smithsonian National Museum of American History notes that until the mid-19th century, the application of soap in the bath was uncommon in America. Most soap, often made from tallow, was specifically for washing clothes. Wealthy people might have access to imported, expensive, perfumed toilet soaps. That distinction is useful. Laundry soap and body soap were not the same social object. Cloth needed washing because cloth carried sweat, smoke, kitchen grease, bed linen, illness, labor, and weather. A household could value clean linen intensely even when full-body bathing was occasional. Scented soap belonged to another world. Perfume changed soap from utility to refinement. A scented toilet soap could suggest money, delicacy, modernity, or social aspiration. By 1890, the Smithsonian notes American soap manufacturers such as Colgate, Procter & Gamble, Palmolive, Menon, Bristol-Myers, and Johnson & Johnson had proliferated. Soap then became not only something people used, but something companies taught people to desire. Advertisements tied cleanliness to respectability, health, beauty, romance, American identity, class, and fear of embarrassment. That part of the story is not only about chemistry, it is about persuasion. The FDA reminds us that many modern products marketed as soap are not technically true soap under the regulatory definition. Many body cleansers, both liquid and solid, are synthetic detergent products. Detergent cleansers can make suds easily in water and avoid some deposits associated with true soap. So the word soap has become both exact and loose. Exact in chemistry, loose in ordinary speech. A person may say soap and mean a traditional bar made from oils and alkali, or a synthetic detergent bar, or a liquid body wash, or a scented hand cleanser near a sink. In a sleepy history, this gives us a quiet, modern thought. The object in the bathroom may look simple, but it is carrying several histories at once. Ancient chemical craft, domestic layer, industrial advertising, public health, scent, class, regulation, and the private hope of feeling fresh at the end of the day. A bar of soap is small enough to miss, but it is a remarkably rich object. It has weight, it has scent, it changes shape with use. It begins with edges, then becomes rounded by water and hands. It may crack as it dries. It may become translucent near the end. It may hold the faint imprint of a maker's mold, or the memory of a wrapper, or a color chosen to make it look pure, medicinal, floral, rustic, luxurious, or plain. In older practical soaps, beauty was not always the point. A household soap might be brownish, grayish, yellowish, strong-smelling, or uneven. It might be made for laundry, not for the face. It might be judged by whether it removed grease from cloth, not whether it left skin scented and soft. Perfumed toilet soap changed that. It made soap intimate and displayable. It invited the user to imagine not only being clean, but being refined. A scented soap beside a washstand could suggest leisure, gentility, and access to imported or manufactured goods. The Smithsonian's American Bathing and Cleanser Collection shows how varied these products became. Toilet soaps, tar soaps, transparent soaps, pine needle oil soaps, antibacterial soaps, skin tonics, and many other specialized products. Each product tells the user a small story. This one is wholesome. This one is modern. This one is for the nursery. This one is for the complexion. This one smells like a forest. This one belongs to science. This one belongs to a fashionable dressing table. Soap, therefore, becomes a kind of language. It tells the body what sort of body it should be. In a sleep documentary, we can let that idea rest lightly. We do not need to become cynical about every fragrance or wrapper. There is real comfort in a pleasant soap. Scent can become memory. A person may remember a grandparent's bathroom, a hotel, a childhood sink, the doctor's office, a school washroom, a summer cabin, or the first apartment where the soap dish was their own. A plain bar can become part of bedtime. The fingers turn it over, water activates it. The scent rises only a little. The hands become slippery, then clean. The bar returns to the dish, smaller than before, and the body moves one step closer to sleep. That small modern moment carries the older world inside it. Oil, ash, tallow, alkali, boiling, stirring, cutting, curing, wrapping, selling, and washing. A bar of soap is history made quiet enough to hold. For this episode, we will not turn soap making into a recipe. That is the wiser path. The old methods are interesting, but true soap making can involve caustic alkali heat and exact proportions. It belongs in a dedicated practical guide, not in a sleepy documentary. But we can still picture how it was made. In an older household, animal fat might be saved rather than wasted. Beef or mutton fat could be rendered into tallow. Wood ash could be leached with water to make an alkaline liquid. The fat and alkali were brought together with heat, stirring, and patience. The result was not a delicate, perfumed bar wrapped for a dressing table. It was practical soap, plain, useful, and often aimed at laundry, work cloth, floors, tools, and the hard surfaces of ordinary life. That gives us a strong contrast with the quiet modern sink. Today a person may press a pump and receive a scented liquid cleanser. They may unwrap a smooth bar that smells of lavender, oat, mint, cedar, or nothing at all. They may use a body wash that is not technically true soap under the FDA's definition, because many modern cleansers are synthetic detergent products, rather than traditional alkali salts of fatty acids. So, the modern bathroom hides a long chain of older work. Behind the clean bottle are ash buckets, rendered fat, oil jars, heavy pots, river water, washboards, public baths, laundresses, factory boilers, advertising cards, and chemistry lessons learned over many centuries. The listener does not need to make any of it tonight. It is enough to notice the contrast. An old bar made from saved fat and ash, and a modern cleanser made to be gentle, convenient, scented, packaged, and ready. Both belong to the same human wish, which is to lift away the day and begin again with the skin feeling a little clearer. Before we leave soap and step into the baths, we should pause with laundry. A body can be washed, but cloth also carries the body. Linen, wool, cotton, bed sheets, towels, shirts, caps, aprons, work clothes, underclothes, and table linens all gather evidence of daily life. They hold smoke from the hearth, sweat from labor, kitchen grease, dust from roads, milk from children, illness from sick rooms, and the faint scent of a house. For much of history, clean clothing and clean linen could matter as much as a full bath, and sometimes more. A washed shirt between skin and outer clothing could change how a person felt, how they smelled, and how they were judged. A clean sheet could turn a bed into a different place. The Smithsonian National Museum of American History's entry on a washboard explains the basic water labor before indoor plumbing. Household chores such as laundering, cooking, and dishwashing depended on hauling fresh water into the house and carrying dirty water out. In rural areas, water could come from nearby streams and creeks. By the end of the 19th century, growing urban areas increasingly used street hydrants. Municipal water and sewage pipes expanded by the beginning of the 20th century. That makes a simple washboard feel less simple. It is not just a board with grooves. It belongs to a whole bodily economy of carrying, heating, scrubbing, rinsing, wringing, drying, ironing, folding, and starting again. The Smithsonian page also notes that laundering in the 19th century was largely performed by women, and that better-off households could arrange for someone else to do the washing, either at home or in the laundress's home. That sentence opens a quiet door into labor history. Cleanliness often looks effortless when someone else has done the work. A white shirt, a pressed collar, a smooth sheet, a towel folded on a rail. Each one may hide a body bending over water. The Lemelson Center at the Smithsonian describes laundry in the 1800s as grueling. Fuel and water had to be gathered. Clothes were scrubbed and wrung by hand, hung to dry, and later pressed with heavy irons heated on a stove. Clothes wringers became common in the late 1800s and early 1900s, reducing the need to twist wet cloth by hand. This is useful for our episode because it gives soap a second life. Soap was not only a fragrant bar for skin, it was a tool in the fight against laundry day. It met work shirts, bed sheets, towels, aprons, tablecloths, children's clothes, and the linen that helped define a clean body before modern showers were common. The Smithsonian blog about a museum laundry program mentions soap made with a historically inspired method using leftover kitchen fat. It also quotes a museum educator saying laundry was the first job sent out of the house as soon as a family could afford it. That line is not a universal law, but it has the sound of truth. When work is heavy, repetitive, wet, hot, and necessary, people with money often pay someone else to carry it. By the late 19th century, companies were selling laundry technology. Smithsonian Libraries describes an 1878 catalog from Thomas Bradford and Co. for washing machines, wringers, mangling machines, drying closets, laundry stoves, and drying closets, made for private families, hospitals, schools, and other institutions. The words are almost musical. Washing machines, wringers, mangling machines, drying closets. They are not yet the quiet appliance humming in a modern laundry room. They are part of the long mechanical path from hand labor toward convenience. So when our video talks about getting clean, we should not imagine only skin. We should imagine cloth moving through water, a washboard, a bucket, a line of white linen in sunlight, heavy irons near a stove, soap worn down at the edge, hands red from water and work. Cleanliness has always had a soundtrack: splashing, scrubbing, wringing, dripping, folding, and the soft snap of cloth in open air. Now we can step into one of the most famous bathing cultures in history, the baths of Rome. A Roman bath was not simply a tub. It was a building, a routine, a social world, and a declaration of what Roman life was supposed to feel like. English heritage explains that bathhouses were first built in the 3rd to 2nd centuries BC in Campania, the area around Naples, where Roman, Etruscan, and Greek cultures met. By the 1st century BC, they had become a common sight in Rome, and from there they spread across the empire. That date matters because it reminds us that the Roman bath did not appear fully formed all at once. It grew from older Mediterranean practices, from Greek bathing and exercise culture, from local Italian experiments, from water engineering, from changing ideas of leisure, medicine, and civic life. A bathhouse was something people built because they had learned to organize heat, water, stone, labor, and time. Imagine entering one in the late afternoon. The streets outside are loud with wheels, voices, animals, and work. But inside, the sounds change. Water strikes stone, sandaled feet move across tile, voices echo under vaulted ceilings. Somewhere a furnace burns. The warm rooms breathe heat upward from below the floor. Roman bathing was communal in a way that can feel surprising now, because modern bathing is often private. English heritage describes the Roman bathhouse as a place where families, friends, and communities spent time together in shared rooms with different temperatures. Bathing could be about cleanliness, but also health, conversation, exercise, status, and belonging. The baths were also affordable enough in many places to become part of ordinary urban culture rather than only elite luxury. The wealthy might have private bathing suites and villas, but public bathhouses gave many people access to warmth, water, and architecture that would otherwise have been impossible at home. For the Romans, bathing could mark the body as civilized, social, and Roman. English heritage notes that Romans saw bathing as part of their identity, and even as a contrast between themselves and people they considered outsiders. We do not need to adopt that judgment. We only need to understand that for them, the bath was not a small decorative habit. It was part of how they imagined order. There is something deeply practical in this too. Before private bathrooms, hot running water, and modern domestic plumbing, a large bathhouse solved problems that no single home could solve easily. It concentrated fuel, it concentrated heating systems, it concentrated skilled labor. It made hot water and steam available in a shared civic form. So a Roman bathhouse was not only an indulgence, it was infrastructure. It was architecture serving the body. It was a public answer to a private human need. And if we keep our sleepy cat pace, we can walk through it slowly, room by room. The Roman bathhouse depended on a partnership between water and fire. Water had to arrive somehow. It might come through aqueducts, conduits, pipes, cisterns, wells, or local supply systems, depending on the place. It had to be stored, moved, heated, drained, and replaced. Fire had to be fed. Furnaces needed fuel. Floors and walls had to be built so heat could travel where people wanted it, and not where it would destroy the structure. The bathhouse is therefore a good reminder that comfort is engineered. The bather feels warmth, but someone has cut wood, hauled fuel, maintained the furnace, cleaned pools, managed water, repaired tile, and watched the building age. In a great bath complex, civic identity and bodily comfort came together. The city could say, "Here is water for you. Here is heat. Here is architecture. Here is a place where the body belongs inside the public world." That is not a small statement. In many periods, the body has been treated as private, shameful, or purely practical. The Roman bathhouse made the body public in a controlled way. It gave sweat, oil, nudity, exercise, conversation, and water a place in the civic rhythm. The building also gathered different senses. There was the temperature of each room, the pressure of stone underfoot, the shimmer of water, the smell of oil, smoke, and damp masonry, the echo of voices, and the faint roughness of a strigil against skin. A bathhouse did not need to be silent to be soothing. It could be busy and still restful, because it organized the body into sequence: undress, warm, sweat, scrape, rinse, cool, dress, leave. Modern bedtime routines often do the same thing on a smaller scale. Brush teeth, wash face, put clothes away, turn down the light, set water by the bed. The steps are different, but the purpose is similar. Sequence calms the mind because the body knows what comes next. This is one reason bathhouses are so useful for a sleepy cat story. They are not just buildings. They are routines made of stone. The Roman bathing path often began in the changing room, the apoditerium. A bather would enter from the street and leave behind the outer signs of the day: cloak, sandals, dust, social role, perhaps even a little worry. At the Jury Wall Baths in Leicester, English Heritage describes a complex that included a frigidarium, or cold room, with changing rooms called apoditeria and latrines nearby. From there, bathers moved into warm rooms, the tepidaria. The floors of these warm rooms were raised on pilae, little stacks of stone or tile, so hot air could circulate beneath them. This was part of the hypocaust heating system. The hypocaust is one of the loveliest pieces of bathhouse engineering to imagine at bedtime. Not because it was simple, but because it was hidden. The bather felt warmth through the floor, but beneath the surface, hot air was moving through a planned underworld of small supports and channels. Comfort above, fire below. Beyond the warm rooms were the hot rooms, the caldaria. At Jury Wall, English Heritage describes 3 hot rooms with hot plunge pools near the furnaces that powered the hypocaust. The atmosphere could be dry like a sauna or wet and steamy. There were also cold plunge pools, so the body moved through contrasts: warm, hot, cold, rest. The names themselves are restful when spoken slowly: apoditerium, tepidarium, caldarium, frigidarium. Each one holds a different temperature, a different pace, a different little threshold. A person might exercise before bathing. They might sweat. They might be rubbed with oil. Ancient Greeks and Romans used tools called strigils, curved blades used to scrape sweat and dirt from the skin after exercise or while bathing. The Getty Art and Architecture Thesaurus defines strigils this way: instruments with a curved blade used by ancient Greeks and Romans to scrape sweat and dirt from the skin. That detail gives us a different picture from modern soap. The Roman bather was not necessarily standing under lather in the way we do now. Oil, sweat, scraping, heat, and rinsing all played their part. Cleanliness was a sequence, not a squeeze from a bottle. There were practical problems too. Bathhouses needed water supply, drainage, fuel, maintenance, staff, and constant heat management. They were not quiet little machines. And yet, in their best moments, they must have felt almost dreamlike. Steam against stone, light through high openings, mosaics underfoot, a cold plunge after heat, the body shocked awake, then softened again. If we imagine someone leaving the baths near evening, the street outside is the same street as before, but the person who steps into it may feel changed. Skin warmed, muscles loosened, hair damp, body oiled, gossip heard, business discussed, fatigue shifted a little farther away. The bath has done what many washing rituals do. It has made a small before and after. When Roman power moved into Britain, bathing culture moved with it. English heritage dates the Roman conquest of Britain some AD 43 under Emperor Claudius. By that time, bathing was already practiced by men and women at many levels of Roman society, including enslaved people, though access and comfort would never have been equal. Across Roman Britain, archaeologists have found bathhouses in towns, forts, and villas. The spread of baths into Britain shows how the Roman bath was both practical and symbolic. A fort on a frontier might still have a bathhouse. A villa in the countryside might include a private suite. A town might contain public baths where local people encountered Roman architecture, Latin words, heated rooms, and new forms of social habit. At Lullingstone Roman Villa in Kent, English heritage describes a private bathing suite that took up an entire wing and included a warm room, 2 hot rooms, and an unheated room with a cold plunge. It was as large as some fort bathhouses. That comparison is helpful. A private bath suite could display status. It was not only about washing, it was about entertaining selected guests, showing wealth, and making a house feel connected to the larger Roman world. Military bathhouses tell another story. Along Hadrian's Wall and in other frontier places, soldiers could bathe in ways that echoed Rome itself. At Ravenglass in Cumbria, English heritage says the Roman fort was established around AD 130, and the surviving bathhouse walls stand almost 4 meters high. Picture that for a moment. A northern landscape, wind from the coast, military roads, a fort watching a harbor, and beside it, the remains of a bathhouse wall, still rising after so many centuries. Stone survives where steam has vanished. The baths of Roman Britain also remind us to be careful with the word ordinary. To us, a hot bath may seem ordinary. To a person in Roman Britain, access to a heated public or military bathhouse could be remarkable. It required an entire system: fuel, labor, stone, ceramics, water, and knowledge of how heat behaves under floors and through walls. English heritage says Roman bathing culture was central in Britain for over 350 years. That is a long human habit. Long enough for children to grow up knowing the smell of warm rooms, the sound of bath water, the custom of undressing and moving through heat, the social rules of a building made for bodies. Then, over time, Roman political control changed. Buildings were abandoned, reused, robbed for stone, or buried. Water stopped running where it had once been guided carefully. Furnaces went cold. But the memory of bathing did not disappear from human life. It changed form. And farther east, in the Mediterranean and Middle East, the public bath would continue in another deep and beautiful tradition: the hammam. The hammam belongs to the history of steam, stone, and social life. The Metropolitan Museum of Art explains that the public bath, or hammam, was a vital social institution in Middle Eastern cities for centuries before modern plumbing. Hammams promoted hygiene and public health, but they also served as places to relax and socialize. The Met traces the hammam tradition to Roman thermae. Roman baths commonly included a reception room, a hot room, a warm room, and a cold room. In the Eastern Mediterranean, Byzantine baths kept many earlier Roman traditions, including decorative features such as mosaic floors. Then, the tradition shifted again. The Umayyad caliphs, who ruled from 661 to 750, built lavish private baths as parts of palace complexes. The Met names Qasr Amra in Jordan as perhaps the best-known 8th century example, with walls covered in elaborate paintings. We should move gently here, because bathhouses often carried different rules for men, women, privacy, status, modesty, and ceremony, depending on place and period. But the broad pattern is clear. The bath remained a place where architecture and the body met. By the medieval period, the Met says public baths had become an important part of community life. Medieval authors mentioned hammams alongside mosques, madrasas, and gardens when describing beautiful and prosperous cities. Hilal al-Sabi, who lived from 969 to 1056, estimated that Baghdad at its height had 60,000 bathhouses. The Met cautions that this number may have been exaggerated, but says the exaggeration still conveys the grandeur associated with the Abbasid capital. That is exactly the kind of detail we should keep honest. We can say the number was estimated. We can say it may be exaggerated. We do not need to flatten uncertainty into false precision. Objects from the hammam world are quiet treasures. Scrapers, combs, towels, bath wrappers, wooden platform shoes inlaid with mother of pearl. The Met notes that towels dried the body and that in Ottoman lands, luxurious towels and bath wrappers could be embroidered. Hammam shoes or nalines could be made of wood with intricate patterns. These objects let us hear the place without making it noisy. The scrape of wood on stone, the softness of linen or cotton, the wet shine of marble, the dome overhead, small glass openings admitting points of light, a cup of sweet tea after the heat. A hammam was not the same as a Roman bathhouse, and it was not the same in every city, but it carried forward a related idea that washing could be communal, architectural, rhythmic, and restorative. Today, many modern homes have private bathrooms, and the Met notes that modern plumbing caused many hammams to decline as practical places to get clean. Yet in some regions, hammam culture survives as ceremony, tradition, tourism, or local habit. The shift from public bath to private bathroom is one of the great quiet changes in this whole story. Once, to get clean, a person might walk through a city to a building full of heat and voices. Now many people turn a handle in a small private room. The water arrives silently through pipes. The old bathhouse has become hidden infrastructure. One way to understand a bathing culture is to look at the objects it leaves behind. The Metropolitan Museum of Art discusses hammam objects such as scrapers, combs, towels, bath wrappers, and wooden platform shoes known as nalins. Some nalins were decorated with mother of pearl or other inlay. Towels and bath wrappers can be luxurious, especially in Ottoman contexts, and might be embroidered. These objects show us that bathing was not simply a plunge into water. It was a whole material world. A scraper touches skin, a comb orders hair, a towel absorbs water and gives privacy, a wrapper changes the body from exposed to covered, a wooden platform shoe lifts the foot above a wet floor. Each thing answers a bodily need. And each thing can become beautiful. This is an old human pattern. The more repeated an action becomes, the more likely people are to give it shape, decoration, rule, or ceremony. Eating creates bowls and spoons. Sleeping creates beds, blankets, pillows, lamps, and curtains. Washing creates basins, towels, soap dishes, combs, scrapers, sandals, pipes, drains, tiles, and mirrors. A hammam object may look small in a museum case, but in use, it belonged to motion. It was wet, warm, handled, carried, set down, lifted again. It had a place in the sequence. This helps us avoid making bathing history too abstract. We are not only talking about civilizations, religions, empires, medical theories, or plumbing systems. We are talking about what a hand reaches for when the body is damp. A towel is a historical source of softness. A comb is a historical source of order. A soap dish is a historical source of pause. When modern plumbing made private bathing easier, many of these objects changed or moved into the home. The communal bath wrapper might become a domestic towel. The public bench might become a bathroom stool. The bathhouse floor might become a tile floor in a small private room. The old sequence did not vanish. It became smaller, quieter, and more personal. So as we move from hammams into medieval European bathhouses, keep the objects with you. Towels, wooden shoes, basins, tubs, combs, soap, cloth, steam. They are humble guides through a very large history. Now we need to move carefully, because the history of medieval bathing is often told badly. There is a simple myth that people in medieval Europe did not bathe. It is repeated because it is easy, funny, and a little flattering to modern people. But the sources do not support that simple picture. The Getty Museum, in an article directly asking whether medieval people took baths, explains that medieval people did wash using ewers, basins, tubs, heated water, soap, and public bathhouses. This does not mean medieval bathing looked like a modern bathroom. There were no chrome faucets, shower heads, electric fans, or tiled domestic bathrooms in the familiar sense. Water had to be fetched, heated, poured, shared, saved, or carried away. Fuel mattered, labor mattered, privacy mattered, season and class mattered. But absence of a modern bathroom is not absence of cleanliness. In a home, washing might mean a basin and pitcher. Hands and face could be washed without filling a tub. Hair might be combed, scented, covered, or washed depending on custom and access. Linen was important because it lay between the body and outer clothing. Changing and washing linen could be part of keeping the body socially acceptable, even when full immersion bathing was not frequent. Public bathhouses also existed in medieval towns. The Utrecht University Research Portal summarizes Fabiola van Dam's work on the medieval public bathhouse, noting that bathhouses were not merely marginal or scandalous spaces. They could be places for getting clean, relaxing, treating injury or fever, socializing, and hearing news. That list is wonderfully human. Cleanliness, rest, medicine, gossip, warmth, news. A bathhouse was not just about water. It was about being among other people in a warm space where the body could be treated as something needing care. In France, Didier Boisset's article on medieval bathing practices describes bathing in both East and West during the Middle Ages, using water or steam, and refers to urban steam baths in places such as Paris in the 13th century. In Denmark, the journal Kummel gives a set of useful date anchors. It describes early indications of bathhouses in Saxo's chronicles from the end of the 12th century, specific town bathhouses from the 1260s, soul bath bequests from the early 14th century, and public bathhouses becoming common in larger towns by the late 15th century. That does not mean every village had one, or every person bathed often. It means the lazy myth is too blunt. Medieval bathing varied by place, money, season, fuel, household structure, medical advice, morality, gender, and local custom. We can imagine the scene gently. A wooden tub, steam rising in a low room, a servant carrying hot water, linen folded nearby, a person sitting in warmth after travel or work. Outside, a street of timber, stone, mud, market noise and smoke. Inside, for a little while, heat and water are gathered around the body. And soap itself was present too, though not always in the form we expect. The Getty notes that soap was a European trade good as early as the 9th century. Some soaps were plain and practical, some were more refined. Their materials depended on local fat, oil, alkali, fuel, and trade. It is easy to mock the past because it did not have our conveniences. It is more interesting to notice how hard people worked to solve the same old problem. The body gets tired, dusty, oily, smoky, sweaty, and cold. Water helps, heat helps, cloth helps, soap helps, routine helps. The history of bathing is not a straight line from dirty to clean. It is a changing arrangement of resources. Public baths are easier to imagine because they leave buildings, ruins, records, and regulations. But much of the history of getting clean happened in smaller spaces. A basin on a stand, a pitcher of water, a stool, a cloth, a kettle, a tub brought out when needed and put away afterward. The washing of hands before a meal, the washing of feet after travel, a face cleaned in the morning, a child wiped before bed, a sick person sponged carefully by someone who loves them. These ordinary actions do not always leave grand architecture behind. They are easy for history to lose, but they mattered. The Getty's discussion of medieval bathing mentions ewers, basins, tubs, heated water, soap, and public bathhouses. Those smaller objects help correct our imagination. Cleanliness was not all or nothing. A person did not need a marble pool to wash. Fuel shaped the home bath. Heating water takes time and material. Wood, charcoal, coal, dung, peat, or another fuel source had to be gathered, bought, stored, burned, and managed. A large tub of warm water represented labor before the body ever touched it. Water itself had weight. A full pail is not an idea. It pulls the shoulder down. It spills. It freezes. It warms slowly. It has to be carried in and carried out. Indoor plumbing made washing feel private and immediate, but before that, water linked the body to wells, rivers, pumps, servants, children, neighbors, and weather. This is why partial washing was meaningful. Hands, face, neck, arms, feet, intimate parts, hair, linen, different parts of the body and wardrobe could be cleaned at different rhythms. A full bath might be occasional. Smaller washings could be more common. The home basin also created a different kind of privacy. A public bathhouse made washing social. A basin made it domestic. The person washing might be alone, or assisted, or watched by family. In wealthy homes, servants might carry water, heat it, lay out cloth, and empty the waste. In poorer homes, the same body that needed washing also did the carrying. There is a gentle philosophical point here. Privacy is not only a wall, it is an arrangement of labor. A person can feel private in a bathroom today because pipes, drains, heaters, pumps, municipal systems, and manufactured objects are working invisibly. The basin teaches us to see that invisibility. It says before a faucet, every warm wash had a path, and perhaps that makes the old domestic wash more intimate. The water was not summoned, it was prepared. Clean linen deserves its own quiet moment. A bath touches the body directly, but linen waits afterward. A towel, a shift, a shirt, a sheet, a pillowcase, a nightdress. These are the soft borders between skin and the world. In many homes, keeping linen clean was one of the most visible forms of respectability. A person might not bathe in a full tub every day, but clean linen could still signal care. It could also protect outer clothing from the body and protect the body from rougher outer garments. The Smithsonian washboard entry reminds us how much labor stood behind clean textiles before indoor plumbing. Hauling water in, carrying dirty water out, scrubbing, rinsing, wringing, drying, and pressing. A clean sheet, then, was never only a sheet. It was water, fuel, soap, labor, weather, and time made soft. For sleep, this matters. Few things change a room as gently as fresh bedding. The bed feels cooler at first. The fabric sounds different. The pillow smells faintly of sun, soap, starch, lavender, storage wood, or nothing at all. A person slides beneath the sheet and feels the day held at a distance. This is one of the reasons the history of getting clean belongs on a sleep channel. It is not only about removing dirt, it is about preparing the body for rest. In the long view, a bedtime routine is a private little public health system, a household ritual, and a philosophy of boundaries. The hands are washed, the face is rinsed, the teeth are brushed. The bed is made ready, the clothes of the day are set aside. The body enters a different layer of cloth. The modern listener may not think of this as history, but every quiet bedtime object has ancestors. The basin, the ewer, the bathhouse towel, the laundress's tub, the washboard, the mangle, the drying line, the public washhouse, the factory soap, the municipal pipe. Clean linen is where all those systems become soft enough to sleep in. Bathhouses could be loved, useful, regulated, feared, or morally criticized, sometimes all at once. In medieval and early modern Europe, public bathing could carry a social ambiguity. A bathhouse was warm, intimate, and bodily. It could be a place of care, but also a place where authorities worried about sex, disease, disorder, or expense. The same heat that made a bathhouse comforting could make it suspicious to people trying to control public morality. The Danish evidence from Kummel shows change over time. In Denmark, public bathhouses were common in large towns in the late 15th century, but began to decline at the beginning of the 16th century. The article also notes syphilis epidemics from the 1490s, and that fear of disease was among the factors connected with changing bathhouse culture, though some bathhouses in major cities continued into the 18th century. Again, we should not turn this into one dramatic cause. Bathhouses changed for many reasons: disease fears, moral criticism, fuel cost, urban regulation, household customs, medical ideas, and changing ideas about the body. In some places they declined. In others, bathing traditions continued in different forms. This is where the episode can stay calm and precise. We do not need the myth that people suddenly stopped washing. We do not need the opposite myth that everyone was always bathing happily. The truth is more textured. Cleanliness has always sat between pleasure and anxiety. A warm bath may feel soothing, but it also exposes the body. A public bath may create community, but it also raises questions about privacy. Soap may make cloth smell fresh, but it may also become a sign of class. Who can afford it? Who can display it? Who is judged for lacking it? As Europe moved toward the early modern and modern periods, washing often shifted toward linen, hands, face, hair, and selective parts of the body, with full immersion varying widely by place and class. Later, plumbing, public health campaigns, factories, advertising, and private bathrooms would change the story again. But before we enter sewers and municipal baths, we should pause at another branch of the bathing tree, mineral springs and spa towns. Not all bathing was about soap. Sometimes water was valued because it came from a spring, because it was warm, because it contained minerals, because physicians recommended it, or because society gathered around it. The bath became medicine, travel, fashion, architecture, and performance. UNESCO describes the great spa towns of Europe as a group of 11 towns developed around natural mineral springs. Their international spa culture developed from the early 18th century to the 1930s. A spa town is a different kind of bathhouse. It is not only a room with heat, it is an entire place organized around water. Paths, pump rooms, colonnades, gardens, lodging, doctors, music, conversation, visitors arriving for a cure, for leisure, for society, for the hope that water from below the ground might help restore what ordinary life had worn away. In a spa town, cleanliness touches another idea: renewal. The mineral water is not merely rinsing the skin. It is imagined as entering the body, affecting the nerves, stomach, blood, or spirits according to the medical ideas of the period. Some people drank it, some bathed in it, some walked and rested around it. Some came because doctors advised them, others came because society itself was there. The architecture of spa culture shows how human beings make belief visible. If people believe a spring is restorative, they build around it. If they believe water deserves ceremony, they give it columns, basins, terraces, and rules. For our quiet video, we do not need to judge every historical claim about mineral cures. We only need to notice the pattern. Water that rises from the earth becomes a destination. A bath becomes a ritual. A town becomes a promise. And soon, cities would need a different promise. Not just restful water, but clean water, drained waste, and bathing available to people who did not live in elegant resort towns. The modern bathroom did not arrive by comfort alone. It arrived through pipes, public health, engineering, and crisis. By the 19th century, industrial cities were growing quickly. Crowded housing, contaminated water, inadequate drainage, and unmanaged waste made cleanliness a public problem, not only a personal one. A person could wash at home and still live in a city whose water systems were dangerous. London gives us one of the clearest examples. Historic England describes cholera outbreaks in London from 1831, and then the famous Great Stink in the hot summer of 1858, when the smell of sewage in the River Thames became so bad that politicians finally accepted the need for a major sewer solution. The phrase, "Great Stink," is almost too vivid for a sleep video, so we will use it lightly. The important point is not to be gross. The important point is that getting clean had become a question of infrastructure. The city itself needed a kind of washing. Joseph Bazalgette, chief engineer for London's Metropolitan Board of Works, designed a sewer system intended to intercept sewage and carry it away from the Thames within central London. Historic England's Crossness pumping station page says Crossness was built in 1864 and opened on 4 April 1865. It also notes that by 1866, most of London was connected to Bazalgette's sewer network. That is a remarkable transformation in dates. Cholera in 1831, the crisis summer of 1858, Crossness built in 1864, opened in 1865, and most of London connected by 1866. We can feel the pace of the modern city in those years. Delay, crisis, engineering, construction, connection. But sewers alone did not make private bathing universal. The Smithsonian National Museum of American History gives a useful American perspective. It says that before the mid-19th century, Americans seldom bathed for personal cleanliness. After the Civil War, attitudes changed, and by the 1880s, doctors increasingly promoted personal cleanliness. The Smithsonian also notes that in 1891, New Yorkers waiting for the first public bath received a free cake of Colgate soap. That small object is a whole story in itself. Municipal bathing, public waiting, industrial soap, modern cleanliness, advertising, and civic reform, all meeting in one cake of soap. By the 1920s, according to the Smithsonian, bathing had become an essential part of a healthy hygiene ritual in American culture. In 1927, a trade association created the Cleanliness Institute, which encouraged soap and water as symbols of American identity. This does not mean everyone suddenly had equal access to private bathrooms. Housing, race, class, rural infrastructure, poverty, and plumbing access all mattered. But the cultural meaning of bathing was changing. Bathing was becoming not occasional luxury, not only public ritual, not only medical water, but a regular expectation. At the same time, the objects of washing were changing. Soap manufacturers proliferated, packaging changed. Advertisements taught people to worry about body odor, beauty, hands, complexion, and social acceptance. Plumbing entered more homes. Hot water became easier. A bathroom became part of the imagined good house. Modern cleanliness is therefore not only cleaner water, it is also modern pressure. To smell right, look right, wash enough, own the proper things, and keep private routines invisible. A bar of soap on a sink can be restful. It can also be part of a large social machine. The 19th and early 20th centuries did not simply bring private bathrooms all at once. For many working-class people, the bridge between old water labor and modern plumbing was the public bath or washhouse. Historic England's page on Laurie Grove Baths in Deptford says the baths were designed in 1895 to 98 and built under the Public Baths and Washhouses Act 1846. The building included swimming baths, first-class ladies and men's slipper baths, and washhouses or laundries. Historic England adds the important explanation. Individual baths were provided for personal bathing because working-class people did not have bathrooms in their own homes. A slipper bath was not a shoe. It was a deep individual bath, often shaped higher at one end, where a person could bathe privately in a public building. It offered something very modern feeling, but outside the home, a paid or municipal private bath in a shared civic setting. Think of that carefully. A person leaves a crowded home, perhaps a room without a bathroom, and enters a public building to become privately clean. The boundary between public and private becomes architectural. The city provides the room that the home lacks. Whitechapel gives an earlier date. Historic England describes Whitechapel public baths as the first purpose-built model baths in London. Prince Albert laid the foundation stone, and the building opened in 1847. That date, 1847, sits just before the Great Stink of 1858, and before Bazalgette's sewer network reached most of London by 1866. It reminds us that public bathing and public sanitation developed in overlapping ways. Reformers were thinking about water, washing, poverty, disease, morality, and the crowded city all at once. At St. Pancras Public Baths, opened in October 1901, Historic England notes that the building originally had 2 men's pools and 2 ladies' pools, and was among only 3 baths in Britain with first and second class pools for women. That detail carries class and gender in one sentence. Public baths could serve public health while still sorting people into categories. Men and women, first class and second class, different entrances, different water, different social expectations. Victoria Baths in Manchester, opened by Manchester Corporation in 1906, makes the point even more vividly. Historic England says the complex included 3 swimming pools, 64 wash baths, Turkish and Russian baths, club rooms, boilers, calorifiers, and a superintendent's flat. It had distinct sections for males first class, males second class, and females, and the water was recycled through the pools in that order. Mixed bathing was introduced cautiously in 1914, and by the 1920s, mixed bathing sessions were held every Sunday morning in the first-class pool. The building is almost a map of social assumptions. First class, second class, female section, recycled water, cautious mixed bathing, supervised spaces, swimming and washing together under municipal rules. This is important because modern cleanliness was never just about more water. It was about who had access to what kind of water, in what kind of room, under what kind of rule. Public washhouses also mattered for laundry. Laurie Grove included washhouses that later had early washing machines installed. A public washhouse could spare a home some of the steam, heat, wet cloth, and heavy labor of washing in cramped rooms. The old washhouse is one of those places where comfort and discipline meet. It offers help, but it also organizes bodies. Tickets, entrances, class divisions, time limits, posted rules, opening hours, attendance, boiler rooms, and pipes all shape the simple act of washing. For a sleepy cat listener, the image can still be calm. Glazed tiles, warm pipes, benches, a row of private baths, steam near a high window, the deep hush of a municipal building after closing, water settling in pipes, a towel folded over a rail, and behind it the larger story, clean bodies becoming part of clean cities. Soap entered the modern world not only through chemistry, but through selling. The Smithsonian notes that by 1890, American soap manufacturers such as Colgate, Procter & Gamble, Palmolive, Menon, Bristol-Myers, and Johnson & Johnson had proliferated. Soap companies used the connection between cleanliness, health, and social identity to build brands and sell products. Advertisements turned washing into a promise. A soap could promise progress, respectability, beauty, health, freshness, romance, domestic order, childhood care, or social safety. Sometimes those messages helped make hygiene normal. Sometimes they used fear, class prejudice, racism, xenophobia, or shame. The Smithsonian page notes that reformers and advertisers could connect cleanliness with being a good American while treating poverty or immigrant identity as a hygiene problem. That is a harder part of the story, but it is important to keep it honest. Cleanliness can comfort, and cleanliness can judge. The soap on a sink may feel neutral, but the culture around soap has often told people what kind of body is acceptable, which scent is desirable, which skin should be corrected, which worker should be more presentable, which mother should be more careful, which child should be scrubbed into discipline. By the 1920s, the Smithsonian says bathing had become an essential part of a healthy hygiene ritual in American culture. In 1927, the Cleanliness Institute was founded by a trade association of American soap manufacturers to promote soap and water through radio, magazines, press releases, and school curricula. That gives us a very modern turn. Cleanliness is no longer only passed down in households. It is taught by industry, schools, public health, advertising, and mass media. At the same time, products multiplied. The Smithsonian's object collections include toilet soaps, skin tonics, pine needle oil soaps, transparent toilet soaps, tar soaps, antibacterial soaps, and many other cleansers from the late 19th and 20th centuries. The bathroom shelf became a little museum of promises, yet the old chemistry still sits underneath. Oil and alkali, water and grease, surface and boundary, something clinging, something loosened, something carried away. Modern cleansers may be more refined, more scented, more regulated, more branded, or not technically true soap at all. But the feeling at the end can be very old. A hand under water, a slickness that turns to rinse, a towel, a quieter body. Now, near the end of the narrated portion, we can return to the quieter question underneath the whole history. What does it mean to be clean? At the simplest level, it means removing dirt, sweat, grease, smell, microbes, stains, or unwanted matter. But human beings almost never stop at the simple level. We attach cleanliness to morality, beauty, rank, health, hospitality, grief, celebration, childhood, adulthood, work, rest, and sleep. Mary Douglas's Purity and Danger, first published in 1966, is useful because it teaches us to think about dirt as matter out of place. This idea does not mean dirt is imaginary. Mud on a shoe is real. Grease on a hand is real. Disease can be real, but social meaning gathers around the physical fact. A smudge of ash may belong in the hearth and not on a tablecloth. Sweat may belong to labor and not to a formal dinner. Hair may belong on the head and not in the soup. The same material changes meaning when it crosses a boundary. Bathing is one of the ways people repair boundaries. The body moves through the world and collects traces of it. Dust from roads, smoke from cooking fires, salt from skin, oil from hair, odor from work, clay from fields, wool grease, metal dust, soot, perfume, illness, grief, celebration. Washing says, this part can leave now. That is why bathing can feel emotional even when it is ordinary. A shower after travel, a bath after sickness, clean sheets after a long week, hands washed before cooking, a child's face wiped before sleep, a mourner washing after a funeral, a worker rinsing off the day before sitting down with family. Cleanliness is not only surface, it is transition. The bathhouse made that transition public. The hammam made it communal and ceremonial. The household basin made it domestic. The public bath made it civic. The modern bathroom made it private. Soap made it portable. Plumbing made it expected. Advertising made it anxious. A bedtime routine can make it peaceful again. There is a philosophy in that. The human being is never separate from matter. We are always exchanging with the world. We breathe it, touch it, sweat into it, carry it, wash it away, and begin again. It can be easy to forget how recent the private bathroom is as an ordinary expectation. A modern person may feel inconvenienced if a bathroom is down the hall, shared with guests, missing hot water for an hour, or short on towels. But for many people in many periods, a private room with instant clean water, drainage, heat, light, mirrors, soap, towel, and lockable door would have seemed extraordinary. The Smithsonian Bathing History page says that improvements in plumbing technology in the mid to late 19th century allowed many cities to provide clean water and hygienic sewer systems. Upper and middle class Americans responded by installing bathtubs with running water in their homes, while working class Americans in tenements did not have the same access. Historic England's Laurie Grove Baths page makes the British urban version concrete. Individual baths were provided there because working class people did not have bathrooms in their own homes. So the private bathroom was not simply invented and then evenly distributed. It arrived unevenly through class, city services, building codes, landlord decisions, public pressure, household income, and infrastructure. This helps us see the modern bathroom differently. It is not just a room. It is a privilege made ordinary by pipes. Behind the quiet faucet is a water source. Behind the drain is a sewer. Behind the warm shower is a heater. Behind the towel is textile labor. Behind the soap is chemistry and industry. Behind the mirror is glassmaking. Behind the lock is a modern idea of bodily privacy. The private bathroom also changed the emotional meaning of washing. What had once been social, public, or assisted could become solitary. The body could be cleaned without spectators, without tickets, without attendance, without a shared pool or timed entrance. Privacy made washing feel more inward. That inwardness suits bedtime. A person stands alone at the sink. The rest of the house grows quieter. The mirror shows a tired face. Water runs for a moment and then stops. A towel presses against the skin. The ritual is small, but it says the public cells can be put down now. In that way, the modern bathroom is a tiny descendant of the bathhouse. The grand civic sequence has become a private sequence of small gestures. And so, we arrive back at the quiet room. The light is low. The water is warm. A towel waits nearby. A bar of soap rests in a dish, or a clear bottle stands beside the sink. Behind these simple objects are clay tablets, ash buckets, Roman furnaces, Byzantine rooms, Umayyad palaces, medieval tubs, town bathhouses, mineral springs, public baths, pumping stations, factory boilers, advertisements, and countless private evenings. The ordinary bathroom is crowded with history, but it does not need to feel crowded. It can be a place where the day becomes smaller. Warm water touches the hands. Soap loosens what clings. Steam softens the mirror. The towel gathers the last drops. Clean cloth meets clean skin. The room cools. The body becomes less alert, less defended, less held by the outer world. Maybe that is why getting clean fits so naturally before sleep. It marks a boundary. The day has had its time. The road, the work, the kitchen, the weather, the noise, the dust, the worry, all of it can move a little farther away. Tonight, we have followed the history of that boundary through many centuries and many rooms. Now the facts can fade into steam, and the rest of the video can become only water, warmth, and quiet. Let the old bathhouse grow dim. Let the surface of the pool hold the last candlelight. Let the sound of water settle into the background, and let the body remember that sometimes, to rest, it is enough to gently let the day rinse away.